I've titled this photo Recovery because this was taken about a week and a half after the worst ice storm we've had in Oklahoma in many years. And you wouldn't know it by looking at this picture, but just rewind the clock a little bit and the scene is totally different. The whole town was covered in tree damage. There were fallen trees, fallen limbs. We lost power. It was a really bad storm, and it closed everything for like 2 days, including campus. And yet, here we are about a week and a half later, and things are recovering. There's no signs of that tree damage, except on the tree that is bright red. You see this what looks like a chunk taken out of the top left of that tree. There's clearly something missing. That something is a branch that broke off during the storm. But otherwise, this seems like a pretty calm fall morning, and it really is. It was a kind of an anomaly for us to have that big ice storm in the middle of October like that. And normally a fall morning in Stillwater looks more like this than snow and ice and everything else. And there's something about this picture that's kind of interesting that would only happen this year. And that is, I took this at about close to 7:30. I was biking to work and I stopped and got off my bike and took this picture. There's something about this picture that you wouldn't see in most other pictures, which is the sidewalk is covered with leaves. Now, of course, the sidewalk is going to be covered with leaves in the fall, but there's no students around, and that doesn't really happen in the fall. Most of the time, the leaves would be scattered all around because students will have been walking down this path. And in fact, it would have been a little difficult to get this picture. Even on a Thursday morning, there'd be some student traffic. But here, there was none because it's a pandemic and campus is largely a ghost town and has been so for most of the semester. So it was really interesting to be able to get this picture in a way and in a setting that it's just not really possible, or it wasn't possible before the pandemic. And I hope I don't get to take this picture again, to be honest. I've like all of you listening to this, I'm just praying for a quick resolution to the pandemic. I don't like being on lockdown and wearing masks and all that, but it's what we have to do to get through this. So of course, these small inconveniences mean nothing in the long run if it's going to help us get through this pandemic. So I don't want to get too sidetracked on this, other than to say that in trying to look for the silver lining of all of this pandemic, there are things like this that you can point to and say, well, at least I was able to get an interesting photo as a result of it. There's a couple compositional choices here. There's on the right-hand side, you can't see it. Most of my photos I'll leave at the standard, 4:3 aspect ratio. No, that's not it. It's 1600 by 1200, 4:6 aspect ratio. Okay, I forget. The default aspect ratio of your camera, of a DSLR, is 3:2. Great. Now I think that's right, 3:2. I leave most of my photos at that aspect ratio. I just like it for a lot of photography. I had to crop this just a little bit though, because of there's a light pole that was on the side and I didn't want that light pole in the shot. So I cropped that out. I also photoshopped just a little bit or erased something just a little bit. On the right-hand side, you can't see it, but there's a trash can that says, put trash here. I erased that in Lightroom with the healing tool. Photoshop, Lightroom, either one could have done that thing. I used a Lightroom, same idea. So this photo has been edited a little bit just for cropping, and then I took out that trash can. But other than that, this is how it looked. This brilliant scene with all the leaves changing from yellow to orange to red, and then green in the background, the sun coming in. This is how it looked. And it's a sign to me that we're going to get through this, and things change, seasons change, but spring's going to come, a vaccine's going to come. We're going to get through this pandemic. And that was another thing I enjoyed about taking this photo.